Vanna White is arguably the most famous face in television. She is America's sweetheart. But behind her smile hides a life filled with scandal, tragedy, and devastating pain. From a wild lesbian lover to leaked raunchy photos, in this video, we will share the biggest mistake of her life that nearly ended her career, as well as show you some of her most racy photos that few people even know exist. Nothing about Vanna White's life is ordinary. She was born Vanna Marie Rosich in 1957 in North Carolina. She was raised by her mother, Joan Marie, and her stepfather, Herbert White. Only she didn't know that White wasn't her real father until she was 12 years old.
When I was 12 years old, my mother sat me down to tell me something. Herbert is not your biological father. Someone else is. I was surprised because this man had raised me for 12 years and I thought he was my father.
Her real father, as she discovered, had abandoned her when she was just a baby. Before she became the famous superstar we all know and love today, White dreamed of making it big in the world of fashion. After graduating high school, she enrolled in the Atlanta School of Fashion and Design. During this time, she also kicked off her career as a model. And as you can see, she wasn't shy to show off her sexy curves. Already, her raw beauty and sex appeal was obvious. White was only 19 when she started dating a man 14 years her senior, Gordy Watson. It might sound like a bit of a scandal, but it was a serious relationship that lasted for 4 years.
He was beautiful, he was gorgeous, he was mature. I just fell in love.
As a model, it was clear that young Vanna was going to take the world by storm. And in case you didn't know, in 1978, she was actually a finalist in the Miss Georgia USA pageant.
Vanna is from Atlanta, and she is a professional model.
I'm a professional model, and I'd like to advance my career in this business, and I enjoy meeting people.
But White felt that her relationship and her career was not living up to her dreams. So in 1980, she packed her bags and moved to Hollywood. She had a pocket full of dreams and a handful of pennies.
$1,000 to my name, $300 for the car, $700 for the apartment.
Working odd jobs like waitressing, she simply couldn't cut it. She was dirt poor and desperate. And as we all know, desperate measures sometimes lead to stupid choices. To make some extra cash on the side, she agreed to do a daring photo shoot with very little clothes on. Those photos would turn out to be one of the biggest mistakes of her life. By 1981, she had already landed small roles in Hollywood, playing minor characters in movies like Midnight Offerings, Graduation Day, and Looker. By now, she was mingling with celebrities and even dating one actor and model, John Gibson. The two soon got engaged. Enjoying the celebrity life, White was allegedly also a regular at the Playboy Mansion, which would lead to one of the most scandalous parts of her life in more than one way. In 1982, White auditioned for Wheel of Fortune, beating 200 other girls to become the show's host. Fun fact, the show wasn't originally named Wheel of Fortune. It was first called Shopper's Bazaar. Instead of winning real money, players won fake cash that they could use toward real prizes on the set. Suddenly, Vanna White was an overnight sensation and sex symbol. The show shot her to instant international fame. The public and the media was so obsessed with her that they called it Vanna-mania.
I don't know how Vanna-mania started. It just snowballed into more and more and more.
However, behind all the glitz and glamour and her wholesome image on the family game show, it seems White was living a dark secret. As a former Hollywood party girl, Liza Greer claims, White was a frequent face at Hugh Hefner's wild parties during the early 80s. More than that, Greer claims that White was into sexual adventures with other girls as well. In an interview with Radar Online, Greer said this: "It was a bisexual area during that time. If you partied at Hef's, that's what you did. Vanna was known for it." Greer also went on to claim that she and White had one wonderful night of crazy passion in White's apartment. "We were lesbian lovers and did what two people do in a bedroom. I had sex with her, obviously. It was pretty wild." These wild escapades were also documented in Greer's book, You Won't Make Love in This Town Again. White never confirmed any of it, but she also never denied it. And it's not that hard to believe. White did once admit that she and Hugh Hefner were good friends, but that was until he stabbed her in the back. Remember those lingerie shots that White did for some extra cash? Well, now that she was famous, those photos found their way to Hugh Hefner, and he decided to publish them in Playboy.
He was a friend of mine, and I went to him and said, "Hef, if you put these pictures on the cover, it could ruin my career." And he still put them on there.
White feared that those images would spell the end of her career. Think about it. She was the sweet and innocent face of Wheel of Fortune. What would her adoring fans think if they saw her semi-nude photos in a sleazy magazine? Thankfully, she walked away from the ordeal unscathed and her career remained intact. If anything, the extra publicity may have even boosted her career a little. During the next 10 years, she would appear in several films and television series, including The A-Team, Santa Barbara, and Goddess of Love. By now, Wheel of Fortune had become a household name and was one of the most popular game shows of all time. They even turned her name into an actual verb. So yes, if you look it up in the dictionary, it says, to Vanna White, named for the longtime hostess of Wheel of Fortune. It's used to mean to gesture towards something in order to indicate it to an audience. Another interesting fact, Vanna also holds a world record for clapping. White's life seemed perfect, but more tragedy was to hit. While her professional life was soaring, her personal life was tumbling down a never-ending spiral of heartache. In 1986, White's fiancé suffered a fatal plane crash. The sudden loss left her in pieces.
My boyfriend at the time was killed in a plane crash. That was devastating.
All she could do was pick up the pieces and move on. With the help and support of friends, family, and her fans, she was able to move forward. I heard from so many people who had shared the same experience of losing someone instantly in an accident. And that really helped me, she said. I didn't feel like I was alone, because when something like that happens, you immediately think you're the only one. And here's an interesting tidbit we bet you didn't know. In 1988, White found a new love, or should we rather say, a fiery fling. For a brief while, she dated Sylvester Stallone. They were the talk of the town. They even attended a White House dinner together. But the celebrity duo didn't last. In that same year, the pair went their separate ways. During the 90s, she continued her streak in film and television, appearing in numerous classics like L.A. Law, Married, With Children, Full House, and Naked Gun. White went on to marry film producer George Santopietro in 1990. But once again, she would suffer immense pain. 2 years into their marriage, she fell pregnant with her first child, but had a miscarriage. The loss was devastating. I so wanted to be pregnant and have a baby, she said. So then when I finally got pregnant, I wanted to tell the world immediately. Obviously, I lost the baby, which was devastating after announcing it. However, she was determined to start a family. And in 1994, she gave birth to her first child, Nico. 3 years later, in 1997, she welcomed her daughter, Gigi. Even though they appeared as a happy family, behind the scenes, things were falling apart. In 2002, White and her husband divorced after 12 years of marriage. For the next decade, White seemed to focus only on her career, and her love life seemed all but non-existent. But in 2012, she found the man who she calls the love of her life, John Donaldson. For once, he is not some famed actor or a celebrated film producer. Donaldson is just a normal guy who happens to own his own construction company. For White, it was love at first sight. I remember looking at him and thinking, he's really cute, she said. We ended up talking for a long time that night. White and Donaldson have been in a serious relationship now for more than a decade. Yet if you look closely at pictures of them together, you might spot one curious detail. She is still not sporting a big wedding ring. And why not? Simply put, neither of them feel the need to get married, as she once made clear in an interview. I mean, we've been together 12 years and I feel like we are married. Do we have to get married? No, because we feel comfortable in our relationship. Vanna has been hosting Wheel of Fortune for over 40 years now and seems in no hurry to retire, even though her co-host Pat Sajak has already announced that he is walking away from the show. Sajak suffered a major health scare in 2019 and needed emergency surgery. During that time, White hosted the show on his behalf. And believe it or not, even though she had been on the show for 4 decades, the mere thought of hosting the show scared the daylight out of her.
I was petrified, terrified, but I did it.
We can only hope to see Vanna White on Wheel of Fortune for many more years to come. Did you know about her tragic personal life or about her alleged encounter with a lesbian lover? If you enjoyed this video, there's a good chance you'll also enjoy the one showing on your screen right now. Click, enjoy, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you on the next one.